Hello everyone, today we're going to be going over a TCG Cyber Dragon deck that I promised in my previous video. So we're going to split this video up into certain categories. There's going to be the main bulk of the deck, which is the monsters. I'm talking about the core monsters. Then there's going to be the kaijus. We're only playing one kaiju but two copies of it. We're going to be going over the hand traps, we're going to be going over the spells, the fusion spells, and the other going second cards. So let's start off with the main part of the Cyber Dragon deck. Before I begin with the deck profile, if you ever wondered how I come up with good descriptions, titles and custom thumbnails, I actually use a site called Jasper AI, so it's actually quite a brilliant website. It allows you to type in specific categories and additional content, and you can actually watch as AI types in a summary for you when you type in a specific category. So if you want to type in a blog, if you want additional YouTube ideas, you can go onto there and then you can type in whatever category you want and just watch as AI literally just types it all down for you. So that's what I use. There's a link in the description. It's completely free. There's a free subscription. Just remember to cancel it when you're done. And if you use the link that I provide, you get 10,000 additional words for free. The very start of the deck is going to be 3 Cyber Dragons, the original ones. Doesn't matter which one you pick. There's this one and then there's this one. So we're going to do 3 of these ones here. Again, very good card. And even though it's an effect monster, it doesn't actually have an effect, which is also very good about this card. Everything you see here, if only your opponent controls a monster, you can first summon this card from your hand. It's a summoning condition, it's not an effect. So no one can really negate this. I'm not even sure if anyone can negate this with Call By, but that has yet to be tested. Next, we're playing 3 Cyber Dragon Cores. So 3 of these. If this card is normal summoned, add 1 Cyber Spell track card from your deck to your hand. In my previous video, I mentioned that all of the Cyber Dragon monsters count as being Cyber Dragons while on the field or in the graveyard. This is another example of that. Okay, so this is very important because you can special summon these cards in the graveyard, and then there are card effects that require you to have Cyber Dragon in the graveyard, which I'm going to go over later. This is very good because it searches your spell and trap cards with Cyber in its name. And the second effect you don't really use that much, but it's a last case scenario kind of thing if you're trying to grind out with this deck. If only your opponent controls a monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard and special summon a Cyber Dragon from your deck. Of course, it can only be the original one because they don't count as Cyber Dragons while in the deck. Only the field or in the graveyard. Please note though, you can only use 1 Cyber Dragon core effect per turn, and only once per turn. So be careful with these kinds of effects. You do get these kind of effects often with some of the Cyber Dragon cards. On to the next one, we have Cyber Dragon Hers, your level 1 monster, and Cyber Dragon Nashta, which will have 2 of these. So let's go over Hers first. This is essentially your copy of Black Metal Dragon, except it's only a once per turn. This card is sent to the graveyard. You can add 1 other Cyber Dragon from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So, in a mediocre scenario, send this card to the graveyard by link summoning or by using Hers' effect, which I'll go over later. Send it to the graveyard, add Cyber Dragon to the hand, and then pop off with your combo. Or, if this, for example, is your second turn, if this is sent to the graveyard, and Cyber Dragon Core's in the graveyard, Cyber Dragon Core counts as being a Cyber Dragon in the field or in the graveyard, which means you can add Cyber Dragon Core back to your hand, and then you can normal summon it, and then you can activate its effect, add a Cyber Spell track off to your hand, fusion summon, and try and end the game. Cyber Dragon Nashta is your way of summoning monsters onto the field by sending another monster from the hand to the graveyard. So usually what you want to do is you want to send Cyber Dragon to the graveyard and special summon this card using this card's effect. You can discard 1 other monster, special summon this card from your hand, and if this card is normal special summoned, you can target 1 machine monster with 2100 attack or defense in your graveyard, special summon that target, but it locks you into machine types for the rest of the turn. So another thing to be careful of. If you're going to link away into something that's not machine, do that first before you do Nashta's effect, and that's pretty much it. Or if you have Nashta and hers in hand, activate this card's effect, send hers to the graveyard, special summon this card, and then hers will search for Cyber Dragon and you haven't normal summoned yet. So there's that. Your other, the extender, I only play one of these, Cyber Dragon Via. So this card gets special summon to the field if you normal or special summon a Cyber Dragon. So, and when this card is on the field, each Cyber Dragon monster you control, or each Cyber Dragon you control, sorry, gains 500 attack and defense. So very good. That card actually becomes a hindrance at the start of the at the start of your turn, and I'll explain why. Mainly because of a card called Machine Duplication, which I'll show you later. Onto your other cards. 2 copies. I'm going to type this in. Sorry. 2 copies of Galaxy Soldier. Okay, and the whole purpose of this card is to get your Cyber Dragon Nova and then Infinity later on. So send in a light machine type, not machine type monster, sorry. Light monster from your hands to the graveyard, special summon this card from your hand in defense position, and when this card is special summoned, you can search itself. Usually you can search a Galaxy monster, but this is the only Galaxy monster you're going to be playing in this deck. And the last other monster you're playing in this deck is the Machine Kaiju, Jizukira. 2 copies of these. And these are actually searchable cards, with cards like Cyber Repair Plant, which I'm also going to be playing in this deck. Importance of Kaiju, this is mostly a going second deck. This is why the Kaijus are very important. Okay? And what's also very good about this card is because it's machine type, even though it's on your opponent's side of the field, you can use it to fusion summon or special summon one of your fusion monsters, one of the Chimera Tech fusion monsters. So that's a plus, it's a win-win. On to the hand traps. We're playing 3 Effect Veiler, and we are playing 3 DD Crow. Effect Veiler is just a brilliant card and it's not once per turn, and DD Crow is mostly to just combat the meta. So that's why I play these. In Master Duel, I play Ash Blossom instead of Effect Veiler, only because Ash Blossom you can get automatically from your special packs at the cost of 750 gems, whereas Effect Veiler you can't, and it's an ultra rare. But in the TCG, it's very cheap. I got Effect Veiler for 99p on eBay, so if you want to get it, then that's brilliant. It's not once per side effect. The only ups and downs to this is that Ash Blossom does not target, whereas Effect Veiler does. But on the flip side, when your opponent is starting off, I don't think there's going to be a single card in the game where they're starting off and it can't be targeted by card effects and it allows them to search. If they're playing Dark Magician, you can Effect Veiler that. Not the Dark Magician itself, I mean Magician's Rod. If they're playing anything else, if they're playing Aluba, that gets negated by Effect Veiler. Yeah, it's just a really good card. On to the spell cards. So the main spell cards for the Cyber Dragon deck, we are playing 3 Cyber Emergency. And this is just to search the essential cards that you need. Add 1 light machine monster that can't be normal summoned or set. This is referring to Drytron. We're not playing this with Drytron. Or 1 Cyber Dragon monster from your deck to your hand. So any monster that has Cyber Dragon in its name. And you're mostly going to be searching Cyber Dragon Core, or if you already have Cyber Dragon Core, you're going to be searching hers. If not hers, then Nashta. And just to start off your play. Very good thing about this card is if this card gets negated, you can discard 1 card and add this card back to your hand. And usually you don't want to discard, but with Cyber Dragons, discarding a Cyber Dragon is actually kind of like beneficial, because you have cards effects that resolve, or you can only activate them if you have a Cyber Dragon in the graveyard. One thing to note though, the activation has to be negated. So if they Ash Blossom this, there's not much you can do. So yeah. The other card we're playing is we're going to be playing 3 Machine Duplication. A very good card. However, going back to what I said, I'll list this out first. Target one machine monster you control 500 or less attack, special summon up to 2 monsters from your deck with the same name as that face-up monster. These monsters, Cyber Dragon Core has Nashta and even Via. We're not going to count Via, because Nashta, Core, and hers have attack lower than 500. However, if Via is on the field, that all gets ruined because all of them gain 500 attack and defense. So just be careful about that. If you have Veer on the field and you have these monsters on the field, link them away, link Veers away into something like Cyber Dragon Seizure and combo off from there. But as long as that card's on the field, you're not going to be able to activate Machine Duplication because everything gains 500 attack and defense. And because these cards count as being Cyber Dragon, this card can be an attack position. You activate Machine Duplication, target this card, and you can special summon 2 Cyber Dragons. I mean the original ones. So yeah, very good card. The next card we're going to be playing is the card I was talking about. This one actually searches your Kaiju, Cyber Repair Plan. So if a Cyber Dragon is in your graveyard, you can activate one of these effects. And if you have 3 or more Cyber Dragons in your graveyard at this card activation, you can activate both effects and resolve in sequence. This is a hard once per turn. Add 1 Light Machine type monster from your deck to your hand, or target 1 Light Machine type monster in your graveyard, shuffle that card into the deck. So, Jizukiru is the machine light monster, so it can be searched using Cyber Repair Plan. So this is really good. Most of the time when someone sees you activating Cyber Repair Plan and they've already used your Ash and they have another negate on the field, they're not really going to negate this. And as soon as Jizukiru gets into your hand, there's not much they can do after this because this summoning condition is not in effect. Which means they're going to watch you add the Kaiju to your hand and know they can't do a single thing about it. And then just watch as their monster gets sent to the graveyard. And that's pretty much it. Now for our... Oh wait, no, there's one more card. Cyber Rev System. This is just a free special summon. And also, the monster special summon by this card's effects can't be destroyed by card effects. Very good. So you can actually summon. I'm not sure if you can. I have to check the XYZ monster. But you could summon Nova off of this. I'd have to check. And it can't be destroyed by card effects. And then you can just go straight into Infinity from Cyber Dragon Nova. So onto your fusion spells. So me, I play 2 Power Bond. Just typing that in. This is Polymerization, except during the M phase you take damage gained equal to the amount of attack gained from this effect. So when you activate this, it's Polymerization, and when it's fusion summoned, it gains attack equal to its original attack. This is just to OTK faster. But at the end of the turn, you take damage equal to the amount of attack gained by this effect. I'll give you an example. Cyber Twin Dragon is 2,800. If you summon him through Power Bond, he gains another 2,800. At the end of the turn, you're going to lose 2,800. That's how Power Bond works. But at the end of the day, your whole objective is to kill your opponent on your first turn. So that last effect shouldn't matter because you should have already ended the game. But if it doesn't, then yeah, it's not really a huge deal because you're going to be losing 3,000 or less life points. But if you can't finish your opponent off, clear their board. That's just how the game goes. I'm playing 1 Overload Fusion. This is actually quite a funny card. 1, it can't be searched, at least not with the cards we're playing. But it's a really good card, and this is mainly to summon Rampage Dragon. Chimeratic Rampage Dragon, which is a card I'm going to show you later. In Master Duel, I have 2 of these, and I also have Verte Anaconda, which is why it's a lot easier to play with this card in Master Duel in regards to the OCG than in the TCG, because Verte is banned. So Verte, summon, pay 2,000 life points, send Overload Fusion to the graveyard, summon Rampage Dragon, and then Rampage Dragon will activate its effect, destroy spell track cards, and then his second effect, which is a really good card. Really good card effect. Send 2 machine type monsters from the deck to the graveyard, and then it gains attack, an additional attack, for each monster sent to the graveyard by this effect. So you can attack 3 times if you send 2 to the graveyard. But because we're playing TCG, only one of these. You only need one of these anyway. And our last fusion card we are playing is Cyberload Fusion. 1, this recycles your monsters because it fusion summons by shuffling the fusion materials listed on it into the deck from amongst your cards in the field and your face-up banished cards. 2, you have a card that utilizes your banished cards, which is really good. So your opponent can activate Cool Bar, your opponent can activate Dimension Fissure, and some of your monsters get banished. You can activate Cyberload Fusion, fusion summon your Rampage Dragon using your banished monsters, and there's nothing they can really do about it. However, the monster you summon with this card is the only one that can attack for the rest of the turn. So just be careful about that. Only one of these. Okay, so your other going second cards. You're playing 1 Cool Buy. Cool Buy is now extremely cheap in the TCG. I'm not even kidding. It's at 1, that's probably why. It's actually going for £1.90 in eBay, which is quite funny. But it's extremely cheap. I remember this card used to cost like £15. But now it's like £1, so hilarious. We're playing 3 Lightning Storm. Now, this card is expensive. So feel free to run 3 Dark Holes or 3 Regekis. If you can't have access to this. On this website, I use Lightning Storm. Anyone can use Lightning Storm. In IRL, I actually use 3 Regekis instead. This card's really good because most of the time you're going to have this in your hand. If not, it's okay, but if you do, you're not really going to have monsters face down or spell track cards face down, so it's all good. And all of your effects mostly activate in the hand, so you have time to activate this and clear your opponent's back row or front row. And the last card we are playing is 3, why did I type that in? 3 Evenly Matched, which is again a good clearance card. And that's it. At the end of the battle phase, if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can make your opponent banish cards from your field face down so they control the same number of cards as you do. And if you control no card, you can activate this card from your hand. All of your card effects mostly are going to be activated from the hand, which means you have time to activate this. In fact, when your opponent's finished setting up the board, if you have this in hand, just go straight into the battle phase, end the battle phase, activate this, clear your opponent's field, and then your focus could be summoning Infinity. And best case scenario, evenly matched, summon Infinity, have Effect Veiler in hand, or even more Effect Veilers in hand, maybe a DD Crow, and that's the best case scenario. Now let's go over the extra deck. The first thing I'm going to go over with the extra deck are our Link 1 targets. Let's go over that real quick. Your Cyber Dragon hers and your Cyber Dragon Nashta. If they're on the field, you're able to link them away for a Link 1 monster. And our 3 monsters we are going to be picking is Linkuriboh, Almirage, and one of my favorite going second cards, Anima. So Relinquished Anima. And what's funny about these cards is that none of these are machine. That doesn't matter because if you summon them before you summon Nashta, you're all good. If you summon Nashta first and activate its effect to special summon a machine monster in the graveyard, then you're locked into machine monsters for the rest of that turn. And then you can't summon these 3. So best case scenario, even if you need to, normal summon hers. Link away for Relinquished Anima, activate the effect, add a Cyber Dragon to the hand, and then if something's in that zone, take it. If it's not in that zone, go for Linkuriboh or Almirage. For our other Link monsters, we're going with Cyber Dragon Seizure. This is just a brilliant way to OTK faster. So Cyber Dragon Seizure. Only one of these. I think only one of these are needed. So during the battle phase, if this card is not declared an attack, you can target one machine monster you control with 2,000 or more attack, and he gains 2,100 attack and defense. But neither player can take damage from this card. for attacks involving this monster. And that's a once per turn effect. So, yep, this. Now to the XYZ monsters. We're playing 2 Cyber Dragon Nova. So 2 Cyber Dragon Nova. This is basically a monster reborn for your Cyber Dragon monsters. Or for Cyber Dragon specifically, but everything is Cyber Dragon in the graveyard. So, Cyber Dragon Nova is very useful. So detach material from this card and then special summon a Cyber Dragon from the graveyard. You can also banish a Cyber Dragon from your hand or face up from your monster zone, and this card gains 2,100 attack points until the end of this turn. Okay, so if you need to run over some monsters, you can banish a Cyber Dragon and then it gains 2,100 attack points. If you manage to banish 2, then cards like Cyber Dragon, Cyber Glow Fusion can come into play, because you've banished enough monsters to summon this card, to activate this card. But you're mostly going to be using this to special summon a Cyber Dragon from the graveyard, and then summon Cyber Dragon Infinity, which we're having 2 copies of these. Now this card is like, I would say this card is the boss monster of your deck. One of the boss monsters from your deck. So you can target an attack position monster on the field and attach it to this card as material. So cards that can't be destroyed by card effects but can be targeted can just be used as material. That's it. And you can just imagine the frustration on your opponent's face. Also, it's once per turn Omni Negate. But it's not a hard once per turn Omni Negate. So if you get 2 infinities on the field, they can both negate something. So keep that in mind. We are playing 1 Zeus. This hardly gets played. But you have XYZ monsters on the field. So if they activate something, or they have cards on the field you want to get rid of, floodgates, other things, other kinds of cards, summon Zeus after attacking with Nova or Infinity, and then like overlay Zeus on top, detach 2, get rid of everything. What's also funny is this card is a light machine type monster, so that means Nasha doesn't get in the way of summoning this card. So keep that in mind too. Now onto our fusion monsters. Most of them are Chimeratic cards. We are playing 1 Chimeratic Fortress Dragon. Only 1. This is a good way, if you're going against machine monsters, you can literally send all of them to the graveyard to summon this card if you have a Cyber Dragon on the field. So I was playing against, what was I playing against? I think it was, is it Mathmatech or something? I'm not even sure if they're machine. I think they're machine. I was going against the machine deck, and they summoned 4 monsters onto the field and ended their turn. And they had a few cards on the field. I drew, special summoned Cyber Dragon, which is not an effect, and I sent Cyber Dragon and all of those monsters to the graveyard to summon my Fortress Dragon. Cyber Dragon plus 1 plus machine, 1 or more than 1 machine monsters. And it was so hilarious. He scooped on the spot, and yeah, it was hilarious. But Chimeratic Fortress Dragon, very useful. Extremely useful. If you're going against Ancient Gear monsters, the archetype, I don't see it much, but I have seen it before. If you're going against Ancient Gears, especially the Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, if you have those kind of monsters on the field, you can send all of them to the graveyard plus Cyber Dragon. You have to send Cyber Dragon with it too. And then you can just summon this card and automatically you've just cleared their field. GG's, it's over. 2 Chimeratic Rampage Dragon. So this is a very good card. This is what you're going to mainly use to OTK. This is also what you're mainly going to use to get rid of your the opponent's spell and trap cards. If you don't have access to Lightning Storm, then this is what you're mostly going to be using. Yes, this can be negated, but it's a level 5 monster. So if anything, if this card is useless, XYZ. Just XE summon. That's all. That's all you need to do. But you're mostly going to be summoning this card. If this card is fusion summoned, you can destroy spell and trap cards up to the number of materials used for fusion summon. This is a target. Also, its second effect, once per turn you can send up to 2 light machine monsters from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, for each monster sent to the graveyard, this card gains an additional attack during each battle phase this turn. My 2 targets that I usually target with this card's effect is hers, if this card hasn't used its effect yet, and a card called Cyber Theros, which I sometimes use in this deck. I'll show you quickly. Cyber Theros. If you're not seeing your fusion cards as much as you should, this card is a good addition card to add to your deck. You can special summon this card from your hand by tributing one machine monster, and once per turn during your main phase you can fusion summon one machine fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand and or fielded fusion material. I send this to the graveyard because of its second effect. So when a fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle, you can banish this card from your graveyard and add one power bond from your deck to your hand, which we're playing 2 of. So it's a card you can consider adding to your deck if you want. It's a good option. Let's continue. So we're playing one Cyber Twin Dragon. With this and Power Bond is just disgusting. This is just game ending. It's actually quite crazy. This card is 2,800 attack. If you use Power Bond, it's got 5,600 attack points. And this card can make a second attack during each battle phase. Crazy stuff. But if you're afraid that they have an Ash Blossom in hand, and you want to OTK but know that they have an Ash Blossom in hand, instead of summoning Rampage Dragon and activating his effect to gain 2 additional attacks, which can be ashed, just summon Cyber Twin Dragon. They can't ash this effect. They can't do anything against this effect. Of course, if they imperm you, then that's a problem. You'll still have your 5,800 attack points, but you can't attack twice. But the chances of people having imperm and Ash Blossom, the ratios are completely different. Considering you're going second, imperm's going to be useless. Okay, it's going to be extremely useless unless they have it face down. But it's still going to be useless. Only one of these. The other 2 cards we're playing is going to be Chimeratic Mega Fleet Dragon, which is the card I talked about in my previous video that made the Agnista player scoop and rage to a considerable amount. You summon this card by sending a Cyber Dragon monster you control to the graveyard and 1 monster in the extra monster zone or more. So you can have Ultimate Falcon on the field, you can have the Arrival Cyberse Agnista on the field, you can have Appaloosa on the field, you can have Access Code Talker on the field, and you can control 1 Cyber Dragon monster that counts as being Cyber Dragon. In fact, it doesn't even need to count as being Cyber Dragon. It just has to have Cyber Dragon in its name. And you can send that and whatever's in the extra monster zone to the graveyard to special summon this card. And he gains attack equal to the material times 1,200. So if you use 2, that's 2,400. A hilarious card. Literally, it's so funny. But yeah, that's the card I used in my previous video. If you want to check it out, it's on the screen in the top right. Moving on, the last card we're playing is Cyber End Dragon, which only popped up once for me, actually. This is essentially piercing battle damage, 4,000 attack points. If Power Bond with this card, 8,000 attack points. So this is essentially, if you manage to summon this with Power Bond, this is Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon, pretty much. Except it can be targeted and it can be destroyed. So just be careful with that. Hilarious match that I played was actually Cyber Dragons versus Incantation. And they wanted to Ritual Summon, but I negated that effect with Infinity. And they had to pass, and they left their Incantation in defense position. Incantation monsters have 0 attack, 0 defense. Power Bond with this card, when this card hit the field, 8,000 attack points, and I just swung into the defense position monster. And I was losing that game. I was clean losing that game. I had 500 life points left because he was, yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, that was it. Other tips for this deck, I would say, where did I go over? I went over the Kaiju. The Kaiju can be searched by Cyber Repair Plant. In real life, if you find any of the cards expensive, or you think that the ratios are not to your liking, if you think you see this card way too much, machine duplication, you can add 1 Cyber Repair Plant to this deck and cut 1 machine duplication, which I found I've done plenty of times. I just felt like for this deck specifically, we go second, and during your opponent's turn, try and stop them as best you can. And then during your turn, clear the field, set up your board, and just swing and end them. If they win the dice roll, or the coin toss in Master Duel, or they win rock paper scissors in this in Dueling Nexus, or whatever the case, and they make you go first, your main objective is just to summon Infinity. I don't think there's much you can do, really. Best case scenario, you have Infinity on the field, you have maybe Linkaribo in the extra monster zone, and then you have a Call by face down. That's the best case scenario. Or not even a Call by face down, you have like a Effect Veiler or DD Crow. If they're playing Despia against you, DD Crow is really good. Really good. And going second, if they have branded, what was that card called again? Branded, I'll type it in, hold on a second. It's that card that prevents the fusion monsters from being destroyed. Branded Opening, there we go, Branded Opening. This card is in the graveyard. If a fusion monster you control be destroyed by card effects, you can banish this card from the graveyard instead. And if they have multiple fusion monsters on the field, and you activate Lightning Storm, they can actually banish one of them, and all the fusion monsters that they control are protected. So using DD Crow on this, very good. Removes their protection. And then you can just Lightning Storm their board away. That doesn't help them against evenly matched though. So, again, brilliant card. Other than that, that's pretty much it. I don't think I need to go over anything else. If you have any other variations you'd like to let me know, feel free to let me know. The side deck is completely optional. I don't really run a side deck because I play the singular version. I don't really play ranked with this deck, but I am thinking of putting ranked in this deck, so I might have to come up with more board clearers in the side deck or something. Maybe Lightning Storm won't work out, and maybe Evenly won't work out because it's to their favor. But then again, Evenly is never to their favor because it banishes face down. But at the end of the day, there are Grand Magi players out there, so yeah, you just have to be careful. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Let me know your other variants of the Cyber Dragon deck if you have one. Other cards you recommend to me. This is my version of the deck. So, and also, the site is called Dueling Nexus. On the phone or the laptop or the PC. Free. All you need to do is sign in, type in your email address, and then create your own password. Once that's done, go into your profile, name your account, so have a name, and then you can set up your deck, and then you can play against 1v1s. You can actually do 2v2s in this format, in this specific Dueling Nexus game, and yeah, crazy. You can also create your own custom duels, and you can do ranked matches. If you're not confident on playing against other people, you can play against the bots first. The bots are completely random though, so be careful with them. They can be going against you with a Red Eyes deck, and then they can go against you with a Altages deck the next time, and then they can be going against you with Sword Soft. So just be careful. All right, and that's it for the video. Thank you very much.